What happens when the rules suddenly change, only for the youngest in the family? On TLC's Seven Little Johnstons, fans have watched as Trent and Amber Johnston consistently push their older kids to leave the nest as soon as they finished high school. Jonah, Anna, Elizabeth, they were all ushered into adulthood with a nudge that often felt more like a shove. But now, viewers are raising their eyebrows and asking a question that's stirring a firestorm online. Why haven't Alex and Emma been given that same push? Is it favoritism, a change of heart, or is something deeper going on behind the scenes? In this video, we're diving deep into the whirlwind of speculation, Reddit theories, and fan frustration that's been lighting up the r/Little Johnston subreddit. From suspicions about parenting regrets to serious conversations around mental health, autism, and double standards, today's story is not just about two kids staying home. It's about the unraveling of a family dynamic that was once built on tough love. Grab your popcorn because the internet has a lot to say, and we're unpacking it all, piece by piece. The Reddit post that reignited this debate was simple but piercing. Trent and Amber put pressure on their children to move out once they finish high school. How come they haven't put that same pressure on Alex and Emma? Almost instantly, the floodgates opened. One commenter cut straight to the chase. Maybe they realized they effed up by pushing their kids out when they weren't ready. That alone sparked a firestorm of responses from fans who followed the Johnston kids' journeys and heartbreaks for years. Redditors weren't shy about calling out what they see as a pattern. Jonah struggled after moving out and reportedly had to move back in. Anna, too, faced her own set of hurdles, clashing with Amber over everything from autonomy to emotional distance. Some believe the Johnstons' early insistence on independence actually backfired, leaving the older kids resentful, anxious, and unsupported. But now, viewers are raising their eyebrows and asking a question that's stirring a firestorm online. Why haven't Alex and Emma been given that same push? Big Firefighter 3638 wrote what many were thinking. Maybe Alex and Emma aren't being pushed because they show the combined maturity of a 10-year-old. Harsh? Yes, but it reflects a sentiment that's growing louder. Alex and Emma are being babied. Others suggested deeper issues might be at play. One theory that gained traction is that Alex may be on the autism spectrum, with one user saying he shows several signs of it. Another added that Emma struggles socially and prefers staying where she feels safe. If those claims are true, the lack of pressure to move out might be less about favoritism and more about a quiet recognition of developmental needs. Still, the critics weren't satisfied. While some viewers empathized with the possibility that Alex and Emma may face unique challenges, others didn't buy the protective parenting narrative. One of the most upvoted comments drove home a damning accusation. Amber needs someone there to complain about how much she does and how busy she is. If they left, life would be harder to do. It wasn't just shade, it was a direct hit at the Johnston matriarch's carefully curated role in the household. For years, Amber has projected the image of a no-nonsense, tough-loving mom. But now, fans are pulling back the curtain and wondering whether control, not care, is the driving force behind her parenting choices. One commenter painted a particularly stark portrait describing how Amber allegedly thrives on the power imbalance with her kids. According to them, Amber needs someone to boss around and keeps Alex and Emma close, not out of love, but because she can't cope with losing that control. She'd get no sympathy for how hard her life is if she let all her children go, one user wrote bluntly. And then came the bombshell insight. If the kids leave, Amber loses not just her authority, but also her storyline. On a show where family chaos equals content, some fans believe keeping Alex and Emma at home serves the production more than the kids' well-being. Because if all the kids move out, my guess is the show is pretty much over. That idea of keeping kids around for the sake of TLC ratings struck a nerve, especially when fans contrasted the current treatment of Alex and Emma with what Anna went through. Anna, adopted from a Russian orphanage, has long been the lightning rod for audience sympathy and frustration. Viewers recall how Amber allegedly dismissed her trauma, belittled her need for independence, and clashed with her in ways that felt personal rather than parental. One Redditor recounted, Anna just wants to move out because she's sick of being stuck in the middle of her mother and her siblings. Another noted how Amber reportedly reacted with fury when Anna voiced plans to move out, even though she had previously encouraged other kids to be on their own. Why the double standard? Some say it's because Anna was never truly accepted. Others speculate jealousy because Anna dared to stand up to Amber and didn't conform. One commenter recalled how Amber once lashed out at Anna for supposedly not being able to survive on her own, only to then insult her when she did make it alone. The takeaway? For Anna, it seemed like a no-win situation. The emotional weight of Anna's situation opened the floodgates for a broader discussion about Amber's alleged favoritism and how it may stem from trauma of her own. One user brought up Amber's comments about Anna's adoption, noting that she once admitted on camera that she didn't know what to do with Anna after she arrived from the orphanage. Instead of meeting that confusion with patience and compassion, viewers feel Amber redirected her discomfort into control, criticism, and conditional affection. Amber never forgave her for not being Elizabeth, one Redditor claimed. She wanted a perfect daughter and instead got a real human being with needs and scars. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, often described as the golden child, seems to have received none of the same scrutiny. Amber supported Liz moving out. She championed her full-time job. When Liz got pregnant, the conversation shifted to support, celebration, and pride. Compare that to how Anna was reportedly treated when she became more independent or stood her ground, and the contrast is glaring. And then there's Jonah, the firstborn and first to be shoved out. Viewers recall how his move-out journey wasn't just premature, but messy. Amber and Trent pressured him hard, and when he faltered, they allegedly placed the blame squarely on him. Now, years later, fans speculate that his mental health struggles could have been mitigated with more support and less pressure to perform.
So, why the sudden shift with Alex and Emma? Some point to regret. You can't learn from your mistakes if you've never made one commenter jabbed, suggesting Trent and Amber finally admitted, in their own way, that pushing the older kids too hard backfired. But others aren't buying the redemption arc. They argue that Amber and Trent didn't suddenly become enlightened. Instead, they've simply grown attached to the convenience and control of keeping their youngest children at home. And the money may have something to do with it too. Several users speculated that keeping the kids under one roof might help secure continued payments from TLC. Maybe money from the show as well, one asked. Maybe the kids out of the house would get their own checks. If that's true, then holding on to Alex and Emma isn't just a parenting choice. It's a business strategy. Then there's the idea that Alex, in particular, is simply the baby. The last one, the most protected. The one Amber has always favored. He will always be 10, one Redditor lamented. The implication? That emotional maturity or capability has nothing to do with why Alex and Emma are still home. It's about optics, sentiment, maybe even guilt. But as much as the internet has opinions about the Johnstons' parenting choices, some fans offered a more nuanced view, suggesting the family dynamic is deeply rooted in unresolved trauma, not just favoritism or control. One user, Ordinary Fox 236, went straight for the heart of the matter, blaming it all on Amber. They recalled how Amber allegedly admitted on camera that when Anna was brought home from the orphanage, she didn't know what to do with her and felt no emotional connection. That moment stuck with viewers, many of whom believe it colored the way Amber treated Anna for years. Amber never should have been allowed to adopt any of those kids. She's awful, another comment declared. The conversation took a deeper turn when one user mentioned the brutal reality of Russian orphanages. Another shared how even as a child, they were horrified by documentaries showing babies left without love, just the bare physical necessities. When you consider that Anna came from this background, traumatized, abandoned, possibly neglected, it puts her entire relationship with Amber into tragic perspective. She just needed someone to love her, one commenter wrote. Instead, she got punishment. Meanwhile, other users express frustration that even now, Amber seems to center herself in every conversation. Whether it's Anna wanting to move out, Jonah's mental health, or Emma's social struggles, the spotlight somehow returns to Amber. Her sacrifices, her stress, her narrative. She talks about how hard it is for her, but never seems to ask how hard it is for them, a commenter noted. That pattern didn't go unnoticed. Multiple Redditors emphasize that narcissistic parents often cast their children into roles: the golden child, the scapegoat, the mascot, the lost cause. And in this view, Alex is the baby, Liz is the favorite, and Anna is the problem. It's a dynamic that's painful to witness, especially on national TV. And yet, despite all this, some fans tried to give the Johnstons the benefit of the doubt. They theorized that maybe Trent and Amber had finally learned their lesson after the older kids struggled post-move out. Maybe they realized that an abrupt shift in responsibility, especially at 18, does more harm than good. Still, others weren't so forgiving. They didn't change because they learned, one user scoffed. They changed because they needed Alex and Emma to stay for the show. Who would watch if it was just them in that big house? Which leads us to a chilling possibility. Maybe it was never about parenting, it was always about production. As the discussion unraveled further, one thing became clear. Fans aren't just speculating, they're grieving. Grieving what could have been for Anna had she received compassion instead of criticism. Grieving Jonah's struggle with mental health that may have been worsened by premature pressure. Grieving the lack of emotional safety that should have been the foundation of a home, not a storyline. Reddit user MacRuffins captured this sentiment perfectly. They admitted to liking Anna from the start, but said watching how Amber treated her made everything harder to stomach. Instead of being patient and loving with Anna, knowing that she came from a neglectful situation, she got jealous and took it personally, like an entitled, you know what? That one comment spoke for so many viewers who feel they've watched a cycle repeat. Children expressing independence get labeled as rebellious. Children who comply get coddled or emotionally smothered. Amber and Trent in this narrative aren't seen as evolving, they're seen as avoiding. One user put it bluntly: they do not want an empty nest. And if that's true, then Alex and Emma may never be encouraged to leave, not because they're unready, but because their parents are. Several fans noted the bizarre contradiction in the Johnston household. They treat them like adults, but still refer to them as the little kids. In essence, it's not about age or readiness, it's about control and perception. If the youngest leave, Trent and Amber lose their babies. They lose their role. They lose relevance. Even as fans dissect the contradictions and flaws in the Johnston family dynamic, they remain deeply invested. Because for all its chaos, Seven Little Johnstons reflect something deeply real: the complicated, messy, and sometimes heartbreaking ways families struggle to grow together or apart. In the final comments, one fan summed it up with heartbreaking simplicity. They have so many double standards, it's a joke. But it wasn't funny, it was sad. Because for all the success, cameras, and scripted moments, what people saw underneath was a family shaped by trauma, tangled in unresolved grief, and desperately trying to script an ending that still feels unfinished. So what's really going on with Trent and Amber Johnston? Is it growth, guilt, or just good television? Why are Alex and Emma still home when their siblings were pushed out the door? Is it compassion or control? From Reddit deep dives to fan outrage, the Johnston family continues to raise questions that TLC never quite answers. But one thing is clear: fans are watching closely, and they aren't afraid to speak the truth. What do you think? Is it favoritism, failure, or something even deeper? Sound off in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives from the fame.